Well, good morning and welcome to what is a glorious autumnal morning on my allotment. And I'd like to start with a thank you, and it's a thank you to all those subscribers that have posted advice and suggestions for things to do with the pumpkins and all the other aspects of the allotment, which I'm learning about. And when I ask a question, it's almost always, in fact, well, always somebody comes back with a suggestion or an alternative. It's clear that people aren't just watching with their brains in neutral, they're thinking, and it's lovely when you get various suggestions. The pumpkin, what to do with pumpkins, was a particularly good one because I have no idea, and I've had all sorts of cracking little ideas from people who've clearly done it. So a big thank you to all of those. And you know, Cheryl and I have already talked about it, and we'll see what we do with the 9 pumpkins that we don't hand in. And yeah, it is an autumnal day, and the emphasis is now switching. It's switching to next year. The beauty of allotments is they're always an investment in the future and a complete statement of optimism. So yeah, I'm already thinking and doing stuff that's looking to next year. I'm a little bit late up on the plot this morning. It's 10 to 8. I've been here for about half an hour. I've been talking to Barry. Barry was up here before me today. I had a bit of a lay in. I didn't set an alarm, and I just got up when I woke up. And last night was quite a special night in Chepstow for us, because it was a reunion of all those chaps I joined the Army Apprentice College with back in 1979 when we were all 16 years old. And like I say, it's the 40th anniversary of us doing that, so we're all about 56 years old. And I suppose there was a troop of about 60 of us, and we were all boy soldiers, and we did apprenticeships from bricklaying to surveying, electricians, every aspect of military artisan trades. I was a mechanic, and you got a City and Guilds qualification at the end of 2 years, as well as being very fit, and all the things that the army gives you: self-discipline, drive, standards, service above yourself, all those things that we were given as boys. And we all went into man service from there, and that's where we sort of split our own separate ways. And of course I met some of them throughout my service, and we remained good friends, and others I haven't seen since we left the Army Apprentice College in 1981. So it was wonderful to see them all, and we're having a meal this evening. So it was a late night, and whilst I only had a couple of beers, I'm sure there's a few headaches in Chepstow this morning, but I wanted a clear head because I knew I'd be coming up here. And I'm up here all day, and I'm starting with a brew, so no surprises there, and I shall sit and watch the sun come up. I mean, obviously it's well on its way up now, but it's still beautiful. Everything's coated with dew, it's glistening in the sun. So I've taken a few photographs, and it looks beautiful. But let's switch our emphasis now to what I'm doing on the plot. And as I say, it's looking to next year. So back in the greenhouse at home, I've planted some autumn broad beans. I put those in toilet roll inners, and they usually do quite well in those because they need a long root run. I've also put some onion sets, red and white, into seed trays. I always start them in seed trays because if you put them in the ground here, the birds pick them out and so on. So yeah, and I've bought some garlic, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm going to try and get the garlic in today. And then of course the other thing that needs doing is the grass all needs cutting. I shall wait till it's dry before I do that. And I think I'll have a look what I've got on the plants. I may dismantle my French bean, take the plants out and take the frames down. I was going to leave the frames where they were, but I've decided to move them next year onto these long, thin beds that are just custom made for those, and I'll leave them there for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. without rotating them. So yeah, a little bit to do. No real pressure on me. I'm pretty much on top of everything. The weeds are fairly under control. You will see my two trusty allotment maintenance tools ready to go, the hoe and the rake. So yeah, start with a cup of tea and take it from there and enjoy the coolness of the morning, because I think it's going to heat up. It's going to be about 22, 23 degrees centigrade today, which for mid-September is very, very acceptable. And more importantly, it's a clear blue sky. And there is a little bit of watering to do. I've still got peas, late peas in the ground. I'm not sure anything will come of them, but I'm going to water them, give them their best chance. Here we go. The water is starting to boil. Happy days. Well, while I sit and let my tea cool down, a couple of things I thought I'd mention. The first is my ultra high-tech approach to allotment planning, and I've already started with next year's, but I have 2018 and 2019, what I grew in each bed, done with a pencil on a bit of paper, and I keep those in my study at home, and keeps a record obviously of what I grew where and how much they've rotated. And I'm already planning this year's as beds become empty. So for example, today I'm going to split down my garlic bulbs into the cloves and plant them, and so I'm checking that the couple of beds I've got empty I haven't grown onions in before, and luckily I haven't, so I've got a bed available and they'll be going in there today with a bit of luck. But again, watching other YouTubers, people like Charles Dowding and Hugh Richards, I believe his name is, young man, very, very knowledgeable already at such a young age and very pleasant to watch. I think it's called Hugh's Nurseries. He's got a lot of followers, you've undoubtedly heard of him. But he's talked recently, as has Charles Dowding, about crop rotation. And I do think that in gardening and allotmenting, there are a lot of myths, a lot of socially accepted truths that are passed down. You know, for example, crops that are heavy users of nutrition. Excuse me. You know, double digging. You know, my granddad did double digging, and I know lots of people do it, and I've done it because it's the socially accepted truth that is passed on. And actually, more and more, the science, when they look at this, and Charles Dowding again has done these trials where he's compared like with like. No, you know, every time you dig into the soil and you turn it and you banish down and crush all the large lumps of soil, and you're ruining an ecosystem. You're smashing apart all those billions of bacteria and thousands of insects. You're completely destroying their environment, and they have to restart again. And you know, when you look at the root systems of all the different crops, you know, the worms create all the holes in the air pockets that the roots move down through, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you've heard all this before, but I'm starting to go with the new way of thinking, that actually you don't need to dig. I've mentioned that before. I'm not going to dig anymore, as in the traditional, what is accepted as digging. And I'm thinking now about crop rotation. In the past, it worked, and you know, you rotated the crops, and sometimes you left ground fallow so that it could recover. You know, times change, and so do processes, and I think that's one that. So, for example, Charles Dowding has grown things like runner beans in the same spot for up to 3 or 4 years, and as the years progress, each crop gets better and better until it trails off, and then he moves them on. So if a crop hasn't had a pest or a disease, why move it? Now, you know, he said, or I think it's Hugh Richards who said it, one of the things about saving time is you don't have to dismantle your bean canes and move, you know, well, actually I would dismantle them anyway to get them out of the soil so they don't rot so quick, but there's a lot of advantages. There's pros and cons to each, but I've decided I'm not going to dig anymore, digging over the ground, and I'll think carefully about what crops I rotate, how and where. I've got club root on this site, and I guess now that I always will have, so I will continue to move the brassicas around in an attempt, at least, to mitigate some of the problems with the disease. I have to say this year, and we haven't cropped everything yet, but certainly the cauliflower, I think that was Clapton, the Monclano Calabrese or broccoli, the Clapton, I've got that wrong, haven't I? Yeah, no, Killerton cabbages, and the Brussels sprouts, they all look fantastic. The red cabbage, I've yet to pick a red cabbage, they've taken ages, but they're still stood upright and they're still growing. So the club root resistant brassica set of seeds I got back in the beginning of the year, they have worked, undoubtedly, hands down, emphatic, big thumbs up for those. So yeah, I'll look at that. But anyway, today I've got a bed available, and I've bought Germidor, 2 packets, and there's a bulb in each, and I guess they'll break down into about 8 or 9 cloves. So let's say there's 9 is 18, so there's nearly 36, nearly 40 garlic cloves going in the ground today, and we've found that Germidor are good. They're a good flavour, we like the taste, and I eat a lot of them raw because, you know, that's where the power of garlic is. The most powerful food on the planet, and I try to eat them as close to nature as I can, so I eat them raw, not always, but we put them in the food as cooking like everyone else. But on a salad, I'll take a clove, crush it and scatter it on my salad, and who cares how I smell. But yeah, Germidor, they grow well, they don't tend to bolt, whereas the other ones I tried, Marco, they all bolted. These didn't, they didn't go to seed, and they store very well. So, you know, if you can get these in your local garden centre, for those in the UK, Germidor, I can thoroughly recommend. It's, I believe it's a soft neck. I think it's, yeah, I don't know, I have to put my glass, yeah, soft neck. It's a soft neck garlic. So, yes, it's a beautiful day. Autumn is with us. I'm looking to next year. I've got a cup of tea. I've got pencil and paper. The only thing I'm missing is some crayons to colour it in. There's something I should think about, doing it in colour. How high tech am I? So yeah. Oh, and I've spent some money. I've seen a lot of people, Cliff on Castle Hill Garden most predominantly, using these bulb planters to put, you know, you grow your seeds next spring in your little pots, and then you get the trowel, you dig them in, and so on and so forth. Well, these are pretty much the same size as the pots. So, you know, he takes out a little piece of earth, puts that in it, and then he crushes it up. And I'm going to give that a go and see how that works. And I've just noticed it's, that's to release the bit of earth. I didn't know it did that. Oh, how clever's that? Somebody's thought about it. Not me. There we go. So that releases the soil. It can make a wider hole with that as well. Oh, it just gets better. Right, cup of tea. Sit and relax, watch the sun, and I'll come back to you when I'm doing the garlic. Well, Bridget's just been over, and we've had a chat for 10 or 15 minutes, and we had a walk down my plot, and we stood chatting by the strawberry beds, and look what I spotted. That's unbelievable. My strawberries are reflowering. I've got fresh green strawberries on them, and I've just found that on one of the plants. It's, you know, a week or so into, halfway through September, and they're all flowering again. That's unbelievable. The weather's all messed up, and Bridget's just told me that her she's picked all her pears off one of the pear trees on our plot, and the tree is in blossom again. And she doesn't know whether to take the blossom off because obviously, you know, will she get a crop next spring? You know, blossom on a pear tree that has just fruited and has now got blossom on it. Isn't that strange? There are no rules anymore. You know, you used to be able to predict, you know, the seasons and what you did. I always remember my mum and dad telling me that I was born in Aden, which was a sovereign base, a British protectorate, I think it was called, when we were in Aden. And I was born in 1963, and they sent a telegram home when I was born to tell their parents. And my mum's dad, my granddad, who I have no memory of, unfortunately, when he heard when I was born on May the 12th, he said, "Ah, that's the day you put your runner beans in." Now, you know, that's how precise vegetable growers were back in the day, because you knew that the conditions would be right. That was the right time to do it. And well, nowadays, you know, you can put runner beans in February, March, April, May. You know, the weather's totally unpredictable. Anyway, that aside, more importantly, you may remember a few videos ago I said that Bridget had this wonderful strawberry plant called Phoenix. Anyway, she's just walked over and I have 2 Phoenix plants. So I thanked her very much, and I thank her again publicly. And I'm gonna stop whatever I was doing. In fact, it's so long ago I was doing anything I forgot what it was. And I'm going to put these in the ground right now. Phoenix, wonderful. Unfortunately, there's no new strawberries on these, but they are very good looking plants. Lovely. So let's get them in the ground now. And eat a strawberry while I'm doing it. Oh. Oh. Do you know what happens when you eat a strawberry off your own plot? You get this zinging sensation in the cheeks of inside your mouth. I don't quite know what causes that, but when you taste something so good like that, it causes this, what Peter Kay calls a taste sensation in the mouth. You don't get that with a commercial strawberry. Oh. Excuse me one moment. Beautiful. Right, let's get my trowel. Oh, God, my fingers smell of garlic. Well, I broke the 4 bulbs down and it made 38 cloves. And, you know, give them all a once over. It's odd because some of them, you know, are quite chunky and others are quite small. Whether, you know, that relates to how they finally end up as a new bulb of garlic, I don't know. We'll see. Right, finished my cup of tea. I'm going to do a bit of watering and then I'll get those in. Right, I'm down on Barry's plot, and he's just shown me this unusual plant, and if anybody knows what's going on here, we'd love to know, because we're not sure. So this plant came up on its own. It wasn't planted by Barry, and when the plants or the fruit start to grow, they have a narrow neck and they're bulbous at the end, very similar to a butternut. But you can see as they grow now, it's not a purebred courgette, so perhaps it's a cross. That's what Bridget and Barry suspect, and it does look like that, but I know nothing of these things. So if anybody has any idea what's gone on here, so it wasn't planted, it grew on its own accord, so the seed was in the ground of its own free will, and he's let it grow, and it's got quite a lot of fruit on it, but we don't know what it is. Is it a cross, or does somebody recognise it for what it is? He hasn't tasted them yet, which might help, so I might do that for him. Well, Barry's just kindly cut one off for me, and the moment he cut, I actually heard it. He used scissors, and he struggled to get through the neck with scissors. So he's right, that cut off like a butternut, and I'm holding it now, and it's definitely not a courgette. It's very hard skinned. That is a really strange ridge around it, and it feels like a butternut. So yeah, answers on a postcard. All you horticultural experts that watch my videos, what is that? Okay, so I'm now putting in my Germador garlic. I'm going to put them about 2 inches deep, and I'm going to space them out about 5 inches apart so I can get the hoe between them when they come up. Put out a nice taut line to try and get a straight line. Well, the day's definitely warming up now. Got the hat on, and I've just dug out the second bed of main crop potatoes, Kerr's Pink, and I've left them in there too long. They are completely ruined. There are so many holes, they're irretrievable. The whole crop, not a single potato. However, you know, you've got to take the positives, and I've learned a lesson here now. I won't be growing so many main crop, and those that I do, I will grow in those tubs. I shall buy some more tubs. They'll last me the length of my allotment, and I will grow all my potatoes in tubs on the allotment and not do anything in the ground. So I've lost the crop this year. We've still got quite a few potatoes at home, and we'll enjoy those, but we're not going to be self-sustaining over the winter as I hoped, because the main crop has failed. But there's you learn more from your mistakes than you do from the successes, and next year will be better. So be it. I've covered what ground I've raked and weeded in some old cardboard that Terry gave me, and that will restrain the weeds for now. And I've got a couple more rows to dig out, which obviously will be the same, but I'll do those on another time because I find it quite boring. So yeah, the main crop has failed pretty much, but I've learned something and I can improve on it next year. And that's what's key to an allotment is, although I'm a pessimist by nature, is allotments just make you optimistic because you think, okay, that went wrong, but next year it'll be right. Anyway, let's have a look at some leaf mould. Whew. Well, it's a hot day. It's 3 o'clock. Been here since 7:20, I think. Managed to get a lot done. Dug out those potatoes and discovered that they're not usable. And I'm trying to stay positive about that. Not going to worry. I've almost emptied the leaf mould bay. In the bottom, I've sort of stirred it around what's left, and it's mostly still leaves that haven't broken down. So that can stay there, and this year's leaves will go in on top. So that stuff at the bottom will be 2 years old. So not worried about that, but I've mulched 2 or 3 beds with that stuff. Bit of deadheading of the flowers. Picked some some runner beans and some French beans, some blackberries, courgettes, raspberries, blueberries. And you know, the time just goes by. Spent a lot of time talking to the different people. Everybody's come up, or a few people have come up, done a bit, and they've all gone now. There's John on the end who's just leaving. So cut back some of the growth on the butternut squash plants that were creeping across other beds. I'm leaving the butternut a little bit longer, let them have a little bit more time on the plant. So yeah, I feel it's been a productive day. So if you've made it to the end, well done. Thank you for watching. Thanks to all of those of you that have subscribed. I do appreciate it. And all being well, I shall be back in a week's time. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.